Hello Stampers, it's Debbie with Stamp It with Debbie, and I'd like to welcome you to Facebook Live. It's Wednesday, so that means I have a live demonstration for you featuring a new product from the annual Stampin' Up! Catalog. And today I don't just have 3 projects. You can see there are a couple extra cards here. I have 6 projects. I'm going to show you a little bit of simple stamping, and I'm also going to show you how to step that card up if you choose to do so. So let me go ahead and get settled over here. And if you're watching, if you would just leave me a comment and let me know that you're here, I would appreciate it. And if you're following the replay on YouTube, if you would click this subscribe and leave me a comment below, let me know which is your favorite project. I would appreciate that too. So let me just get all set up here. All right, looks like I just need to shift over just a little bit. And I'm always working on the lighting, hoping to get the perfect light for you that's not too shadowy. So I see I'm going to get a little bit of shadow here, and that's okay. All right, again, today we're using the Celebrate with Cake stamp set, and this stamp set is not found in the annual catalog. It's in a special flyer that Stampin' Up! Created because it's a smaller amount of pages. Sometimes we get very overwhelmed when we look at 200 pages of what in the world do I need out of this catalog. I want to start making some cards, but I don't know exactly where to start. So Stampin' Up! Took some of the guesswork out and gave you some stamp sets that are a little simpler to start with, but as I said, they can be stepped up, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So we'll go ahead and start with this card here, and as you can see, it's almost a 1 layer. I did do some stamping here, and I put a piece of paper on top, and then we stepped it up a little bit. So let me grab the supplies, and I'll show you real quick how to create both of these cards. All right, again, I'm just going to show you this stamp set. It's real fun. It's got a little bird and some flowers. It's got a mailbox, and I think that would be awesome to put on the outside of your cards so that people, you know, I always like to no naked envelopes. So even if you just wanted to send someone a little greeting in the mail and it wasn't their birthday and you just wanted to say hello, this would be great on your envelope, along with, I think, this little bird or even some flowers. So again, this is the stamp set. It is item 149501, and you can order it through online ordering. You just will not find it in the annual catalog. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to push these up here. Hopefully that's not out of view so that we can still be able to see it. I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap paper here so that I don't ink up my area. I'm going to start with a piece of Melon Mambo cardstock at 5.5 by 8.5. I scored it at 4 1/4. I'm just going to use my bone folder to get a good crease there. And then the first thing that I want to do, the inks that I'm using are Melon Mambo and Mango Melody. And I'm going to use this cake image along with the Melon Mambo ink. And, oops, I'm just moving my light a little bit so I didn't bump it. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm just going to stamp random birthday cakes on the side. You can make them go upside down, sideways, whatever is the best way for you. And just around the edge, you don't need to do it in the middle because you're going to have a piece of paper there. And one more right there. Okay, I'm going to clean this off real quick so that I can make sure not to stick it on anything. Seems like whenever I'm working with pinks or reds, they end up all over my work area. Okay, so, now I got it on my finger. Next, I'm going to bring in a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and that's cut at 3 inches by 4 inches. Oh dear. I put my ink away and I forgot to stamp my cake on my card. Because we do need to, let me bring this one down. We need to stamp this cake here. So I'm going to start by, on this piece. Hopefully I get this straight. Stamping right in the middle. Now I can clean that off. And then I'm done with this. Now I'm going to stamp my candles, and I'm going to do that with Mango Melody. And I'm going to put 3 birthday candles. Now if you wanted to make yours a little bit shorter, you could bring it down into the cake a little bit more. That's okay. And I'm going to keep that inked up because I am going to put some on the inside of my next card. All right, and then the Celebrate with Cake. And I'm just going to stamp that right underneath here. And then the last stamp that I need is the stamp that says It's Your Day. And I'm going to use that with Memento Tuxedo Black. And I just want to stamp that right down in this corner. And then we're ready to assemble our card. So for this one, literally all I need to do, turn this one over, put a little adhesive on the back. I'm not even going to pop it up. I'm just going to put it right in the middle of my card. And you can see how cute that looks. Just with simple, it is 2-layer because I have an extra layer on there just to accent the color, but that was very quick. It's still a very beautiful card, but I want to show you how to step it up a little bit. So again, we're going to start with a piece of Melon Mambo, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to use that same piece of Whisper White on the inside, 3 inches by 4 inches. Now I'm going to add a back layer. Let me bring this card over. 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and that's just going to be layered right under here to give it a little pop of color. And then I have a piece of Whisper White for the inside, 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to do a little stamping on that. So since I have the candle here, I think that I will do that first. I'm just going to put a couple candles right down here in the corner. So when people open up the card on the inside, there'll be a little something on the inside for them. Now if you had a greeting, you could put that on the inside too. And I'm just going to set that right here on the inside. Once again, we need to get our Melon Mambo ink and the cake just like we did last time. And again, just random cakes all around the outside. So I have a question for you. Are you more of a simple stamper? Do you like to get a lot of cards done? Do you just not like to put that many layers on a card? Or what kind of stamping do you like to do? I guess that's what I'm wondering. Is it you know, you just would rather get a card in the mail to someone than trying to struggle with what to do with every single layer? I honestly sometimes struggle with simple card making. It's very hard for me. It's not that I don't find simple cards beautiful. I just struggle a lot with creating them. So these cards were kind of out of my comfort zone, trying to not create a whole bunch of layers, but keep it a little more simple. And I actually like them, and I think I'm going to try to just start getting more cards in the mail and worrying less about how many layers that I have. Sometimes layers are awesome. It's great to have a lot of layers, but like when you're creating your Christmas cards, unless you start them very early, you want to be able to get them in the mail before the new year. But you don't want to feel all the stress, because that's not what the holidays are for. You need to relax and have some fun. Okay, we're almost done with this one. Just need to put the It's Your Day down here. and then we can start assembling. So again, we have the same exact card as we had with the first one. I'm try to put this over here so you can see it. Only this time we're stepping it up just a little bit, and we're going to put a layer on. So I'm taking this piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to attach it to the Melon Mambo. Again, the white is 3 inches by 4 inches. The Melon Mambo, oh, I just goofed. The Melon Mambo is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. I realized I put this one down with regular adhesive, so I'm going to put that in the center of the card. This one I actually put with dimensionals, so I'll just put it right over the adhesive I already put on there. And remember, I always like to put a couple in the middle just so when it's mailing it doesn't get smushed through the mail system. I'm going to take those off. And then this piece will go on top of the Melon Mambo. Now the last thing that I did is I took a couple of the Noble Peacock rhinestones. I thought those would be pretty on there. So I just added a little bit of sparkle to my card. Now you could go a step further and add another color in here if you wanted to, or you can take it down a notch and you don't have to add the rhinestones. That's fine too. So again, we get my scrap paper out of the way, the very simple version, and we have a little bit of a stepped up version. So you can see that it is very simple to just create, again, not a 1-layer card because I have another layer on here, but just 1 layer of cardstock and very simple stamping. If you wanted to even take it up a notch further, you could cut this out, cut this cake and pop that up. So there's lots of ways to make it more, but if you want to keep it simple, that's fine too, because the point is getting a card in the mailbox for somebody, because you just don't know how powerful that is when someone is having a bad day or a bad day at work or something has happened to them. All you do is pop a card in the mail and it brings a smile. So this is card number 1. Let me set this aside and I'll get the paper for project number 2. Okay, here is card number 2 that we're going to be working on. This one's Highland Heather and Granny Apple Green, one of my favorite combinations. And I'm trying not to drop everything here. All right, I'm going to set the supplies for the second card aside. I'm going to actually set the second card. Here's the first card. This time I cut my cardstock at 11 by 4 1/4. I scored it at 5 1/2. Again, I'm just going to use my bone folder to get a really good crease. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'm actually going to make my card so it opens this way. So here is the Whisper White cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm using Highland Heather ink and Granny Apple Green. And I'm just going to start with my leaves. Right down here in the left corner, I want to leave enough room for my little greeting underneath. So there's that. Now I need to do my flowers, and I'm doing those again in Highland Heather. Just going to pop those up right there. And then my greeting says, lots of birthday wishes. So I'm going to ink that up and just put it right underneath. And with the photopolymer, I do tend to hold them just for, a couple seconds so that all the ink transfers off of the stamp and onto the cardstock. I just find that there's no rule about that, but that's something that I found is very helpful. Because sometimes you get voids in your stamp if you don't. So now I just took the adhesive, because we're all done stamping this one. How easy was that? And it's still very beautiful. Again, we can step this up a lot of ways. I'm going to show you one way to step it up, but a couple things I'm thinking of right now. We could add a little bit of this gorgeous grape ribbon. If we did it the other way, we could tie that at the top. We could add some rhinestones, but we want to keep this one simple because simple stamping is perfectly fine. So here is this one, and let me get the supplies for the other one. I do want to mention that if you, it's kind of a bonus this week, if you place at least a $30 order through my online store using this host code, you go to my store with stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net. I'm going to send you all of the paper pieces to create these cards. Now, of course, you have to have the stamp set or a similar stamp set to create these because I can't do any of the stamping for you, but I'll send you all the make and take pieces to create these cards. And because I'm doing 6, you're kind of going to get a little bonus this week. So keep that in mind. Here's the host code. I'll bring it back in a minute, but I want to show you this card. So you can see I did a little bit of embossing here. I ran it through an embossing folder. I did realize, unfortunately, this morning, this leaves embossing folder is not available right now. A couple of them, they're working to make them all consistent the same so that when we get a new embossing system, they all work the same. So this is one of them that they're working on right now. So you can use a different embossing folder and that would be fine too. Again, this one is 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. And once again, we're going to use the bone folder, just give it a nice crease. Now we're not doing anything with this piece, so we can go ahead and attach that right to the front of the card. And then we do have some stamping to do, so let me get my scrap paper back so that I don't mess up my desk here. A couple things. We're going to stamp on this, and this is the largest stitched nested label die cut. These are very nice. I think you can probably see, but there is a stitching all the way around, and they come in lots of different sizes so that you can layer them up if you choose, or just use them separately if you would like to. I'm going to start with the leaves, the leaves and the stems one more time in Granny Apple Green. My flowers on top of that in Highland Heather. And then my greeting underneath again in Highland Heather. It does hang off slightly, but that's okay. And then we're done with the stamping on this. Again, I thought I would add something on the inside, and I just wanted to add the flowers. So I'm going to put those there. The little bird would be super cute inside too. And then I'm going to put my ink away real quick because I don't want to stamp it on something accidentally, and then we can get started assembling this card. All right, this piece is going to go on the inside. So I'm just going to put some adhesive there. Again, this piece is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. Let me open this up. This kind of card is good for some of those little scraps that we have left over. Sometimes the little tail pieces of designer paper, as you can see here, there's some little scraps. So that's kind of why I chose this one. All right, I'm going to put my dimensionals on the back of this real quick, and I think I need to get another, here we go, thing of dimensionals. I know this is a lot of dimensionals, but this is a big die cut, and I don't want any of the parts to smush down in shipping when it goes through the mail. So I'm going to set that aside now that I've pulled all the sticky pieces off of there, and we can start assembling. This is a piece of Granny Apple Green, and this is cut at 1 inch by 4 inches. We do need some paper snips because you can see here I did some snipping. Let me just tell you all the dimensions first. 1 inch by 4 inch. I have a piece of silver glimmer paper, and on this one I cut that at a 1/2 inch. This one I did a 1/4 inch by 4. Just wanted to show you a little bit of, you know, because sometimes we do have that little scrap left over and it'll look just as great. This is the 6 by 6 stack of designer paper, and this is in the Subtles Highland Heather. This is cut at 1.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch, and you need 2 of those. So for these, I'm simply going to cut a banner in the end, and I guess I should have explained that. I'll do it on this one. If you haven't seen it before, to get a banner, just cut up in the middle and then cut from the corner over to that center part where you cut up, and one more time over there. All right, on this piece here, I cut off the end, so I just went from the corner up. Now the other side, you want to do the same way. So you're going to go down or up from the corner, so you can just see the angles match with each other perfectly. This one, that is the same thing I did here. This one might be a little bit long. I'm going to snip just a little off of that. So again, I'm going to cut from the edge up to the corner, and then on this side from the top edge down to the corner, and that just gives us a nice shape. So we can put this one right here in the middle of our card. And then I did layer the, let's see how this works, because that's pretty skinny. Whoops. So the piece of the silver is going to go right in the middle. And then my 2 pieces of designer paper are going to go just above that. And then this one's going to go just below. And then the last thing we need to do is just put this right on top. Now again, if we wanted to add a little more sparkle, we could put, up here, we could run some twine around there, baker's twine, and tie that in a bow. We could add some pretty rhinestones to it, or we can leave it just like this, because this is definitely a step up from the other one. So again, I'll leave you with my host code while I grab the last project. Oops, and I need the samples for that. All right, I'm going to set these aside. And bring out the next samples. Here they are. And I'll bring them up just a little bit so you can see. So you can see this one's pretty, just one layer stamping, and this one we definitely stepped it up. So let's get started on this one first, since it's the simple stamping. We're going to use a piece of Night of Navy at 8.5 by 4 1/4. And we need a piece of Coastal Cabana cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I just realized that my next layer, I have the wrong size, so I'm going to have to cut that down. So while I'm cutting it down, let me see if I can, I don't know if I can see a couple people on here. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I don't normally, if you're new to stamping with me, I don't normally respond to comments until afterwards, just so that it doesn't get me distracted trying to look at everyone's comments and then I forget what I'm doing stamping. Okay, so This piece of Coastal Cabana was 4 by 5 1/4. I needed to reduce it by 1/4 inch all the way around. So this piece is cut at 3 3/4 by 5. This is where we're going to do our stamping. So I'm going to set that aside. We'll turn it over. All right. Hopefully you can see that since it's white on white there. This time we're going to be using Coastal Cabana, Flirty Flamingo, and Night of Navy ink. I actually did a challenge with my stamp team and asked them to create a card using these colors because one of our teammates had a shirt on that color and it just looks so pretty. So we decided to do a color challenge with that. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp, but while I stamp, I just want to share with you about a special that Stampin' Up! Has right now. Right now, if you join Stampin' Up! And my team is called the Glitter Brigade, you can get $155 worth of product for just $99 plus tax. They are giving you free shipping, which is saving you another $10. And then next month, they're also going to give you a $10 coupon to use towards your first order. And there is a minimum that you need to place every quarter, but you have until the end of December to place that minimum order. And it's $300, but if you choose not to place that, all that happens at the end of the quarter is that Stampin' Up! Would drop you as a demonstrator, and you can go about doing what you were doing before, which would be purchasing from someone else, or you can sign back up as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator again. Or if you meet your quarterly minimum, of course, you can continue on. We have team meetings every month, and I share ideas with my team, and I would love for you to be a part of that team. If you're interested in that, please be sure and leave me a comment, and I will tell you how to do that, because I would love for you to be on my team. Okay, you saw how simple that was. We're all done with the stamping. We're going to go ahead and put that right on the front of the card. Let me make sure I'm opening it the right way. Yep. I've done that before where I've put a piece on a card upside down or had it open this way instead of this way. So this one's all done. All right, we are going to move on to this card. And so you can see that I've stepped it up a little bit. I've added a little bit of more embossing. Again, this is a folder, unfortunately, I realized this morning after I was getting all of my pieces around that this is another one of those that you can't order right now, but you will be able to soon. So it's the corrugated embossing folder. So let me grab the pieces and just walk you through what parts you'll need. Again, this is Night of Navy, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of Whisper White for the inside, cut at 4 by 5 1/4. This piece of Coastal Cabana is 4 by 5 1/4, and that goes here on the outside. This corrugated piece is 1.5 inches by 4. I have a piece of Coastal Cabana cut at 2.5 by 3 3/4. A piece of Whisper White to layer on top, cut at 2 1/4 by 3.5. I have two pieces of the silver glimmer paper, and those are cut at 1/2 inch by approximately 1.5 inches, but they're tucked back inside. And you can see I used a little smaller piece there and a little wider piece here. And then we also need a little scrap of the silver glimmer paper. So let's start by folding our card base. And then I think what I'll do is stamp the inside, and I think I'm just going to put a few little hearts on the inside. I think that's super cute, and we can go ahead and just put that right on the inside of our card. This would also be a cute stamp for the outside of the card, the little hearts showing some love when you send your card to someone. All right, now I need to clean that off because I'm going to use Coastal Cabana on this part of the stamp. And I'm randomly just going to stamp hearts all over. This part just takes a few minutes, but it's got a big wow when you think of, instead of just sending it plain, it just took a few minutes to stamp some hearts all over. There we go, all done with that. I'm going to clean my stamp off one more time. So we can go ahead and adhere this piece now to the front of our card. And then we can take that piece that we embossed here with the Knight of Navy, and we can attach that to the front of the card. And then I'm going to set that aside while I do some stamping. So once again, we're going to stamp the mailbox in Coastal Cabana. And then I'm going to stamp that greeting, "It's Your Day," with the Knight of Navy down here in the bottom corner. I'm only going to stamp one little bird this time because my piece of paper is just a little bit smaller. So I did him in Knight of Navy. And then I'm going to stamp the heart in the Flirty Flamingo. The heart's coming out of the mailbox again. And that is all the stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ink away so I don't end up getting it in part of my project here. I'm going to adhere this piece of white right to the top of the Coastal Cabana cardstock. And I am going to put this one on with dimensionals. So I'll put those on now. The other thing that I need to do before I put this one on the card is I'm going to lift this up. I used a little bit of the silver linen thread, and so I want to put that on before so that I can attach it to the back of my card. So how I do that is make sure my card's right side up, and I know I want it up in this corner here. So I'm just going to run a little bit of adhesive here. I'm going to take the thread and find the end and just loosely wrap it around my fingers. Keeping it around my fingers, I'm going to pinch the middle part, pinch it right in the middle so that you've got a bunch of loops all over the place. Hopefully you can see that. So I have my loops here and my loops here. All I'm going to do is bring that down, keeping this pinched, and put it right in the middle of that, and that will hold it. So you can see now you can manipulate the pieces to come to the top or here on the bottom. Now I have these loose tails, so I'm going to stick that one down, and then I'm going to leave that one just hanging loose like that. So before we put this one on, I'm going to take the back off the dimensionals. But before we put this on, we're going to kind of want to eyeball where we want those pieces, and we do need to do a little bit of cutting because as you can see I did cut the edges. So again, this one I'm going to cut this way. This one I'm going to go from the middle down to the corner, and then we just want it to peek out a little bit, so I'm going to kind of put it there and see just about where I want it to be. I'll be able to adjust it a little bit. Alright, I'm going to set that aside. And using some adhesive. You need to use a pretty strong adhesive with the silver, so you could use Tombow multi-purpose adhesive. I'm going to lightly put that one down because I'm not exactly sure where that needs to go until I can. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and push that down. Now I have taken the backs off all of my dimensionals, and so I can put that right in the center there. Make sure it's straight and not crooked. And then the one last thing I wanted to do, you might have missed it, I did cut out the arm on the mailbox in a little piece of silver glimmer paper. And how I did that, I'm going to cut this piece to about 1/2 inch. So I have just this little small piece. I'm going to cut it down a little bit. And then all I want to do is cut up the side. This is the arm piece. And then come in from the other side. So you're basically just cutting a square out. If you think that one of the pieces is too big, like I think that part's a little bit wide, I can just cut it again. And then I do want to put that on with the multi-purpose adhesive because I wouldn't be able to get my tape runner in there. And then I just put a little bit of glue on the mailbox arm and then just stick it right on there. So that just adds a little bit of shine to the mailbox. So what do you think? Again, if you joined us late, I did ask, are you more of a simple stamper, a casual stamper, or an avid stamper where you like lots and lots of layers? I'm kind of in between. Simple stamping, as I shared with you, is sometimes a little difficult for me. I do like it. I just have a really hard time sometimes creating a simple card. But I hope that you enjoyed all of these cards today. And again, if you go to my online store at stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net and use this host code and place at least a $30 order or more, I'm going to send you the make and take kits for these cards. Again, this is the stamp set we use, Celebrate with Cake. And if you're joining me through YouTube, be sure and click subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're watching me through Facebook, be sure and hit follow if you have not followed me yet so that you never miss a project. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope that you've enjoyed these projects, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Be safe and have fun stamping. See you again next week at 10 o'clock right back here.